Hey witches, it's Taya and Luna. And today we wanted to share a little bit about my Catholic trauma and my journey to witchcraft. Which sounds like a tall order, but basically I wanted to share with you how I got from point A to point B and sort of how Catholicism, sort of what role it played in bringing me to witchcraft, because I suppose it did in a way have a role. So it all starts back in 1976. I was born and baptized Roman Catholic. I grew up on an acreage until I was about 5. And at that time, we went to a small rural church. I don't know if it was a Catholic church. For some reason, I think it was Baptist. But anyways, it was a very, very small rural church. And I have so many fond memories, keeping in mind that I would have been 3-4 years old when we went there. They had Christmas pageants. I remember Sunday school. I remember being excited about Sunday school. Every week after services, everybody would sort of potluck bring something and gather as a community in the basement, and you know, there would be food and treats and just people hanging out together. And one of my memories of that time was running through a graveyard. I think I was always a little bit witchy. Running through the graveyard and being told that it wasn't, you know, it wasn't appropriate to be playing in the graveyard. And then when I was in grade 1, I was about 5 years old, we moved into town. And I, in grade 1, started going to Catholic school. And we started going to a big city church in our town. And all I really remember about church was that it was boring. I was not a fan of church. I don't remember going to Sunday school there. I just remember church was kind of boring. Now, when I was about 8 until I was about 12 was when the trauma part really kicked in. I had really terrible night terrors for about 4 years. And basically, I was terrified that the devil, that Satan, this is like the Christian devil, was going to steal me away in the night and, you know, take me to hell and torture me and do all kinds of horrible things to me if I didn't say my prayers through exactly right. Now, I don't remember how many iterations I had to do. It was Hail Mary and Our Father, those 2 prayers, and say it was I had to say them through 3 times. I know it was multiple times, and I had to say them perfectly. And so I was a little weird, you know, a little obsessive about it. And I had to say it was Hail Mary. If I kind of messed up some wording on the 3rd time through, I would have to restart back at the beginning and do that 3 times through perfectly. Same thing with the Our Father. It was kind of my nighttime terror ritual. And the other thing is I had to be completely under the covers, and I had to be, you know, no part of me could be sticking out of the covers. And it was, yeah, it was very much this little nighttime ritual. And I still to this day remember the absolute terror I had that the devil was going to come and take me away. Now, to be fair, at this time, I was also terrified of E.T. and the Gremlins, and there was like, I was a bit of a weird kid, but there's about 4 years where I had these terrible night terrors from when I was about 8 to 12. So this isn't something that happened when I was very small. This is something that happened when I was, you know, a little bit older. And I don't know if it was from church or if it was from school or if it's just something I made up on my own, but either way, it was terrifying to me. And I was afraid to tell my mom, my parents, like I knew it was kind of out there, you know, it was just something I wasn't supposed to talk about. And I remember her saying to me, well, you know, Treva, would God come to you in the night and take you to heaven? I'm like, well, no, he wouldn't just show up for little old me. She's like, well, then why would the devil? And I guess that sort of helped a little bit assuage my fear. But moving into junior high school, those night terrors did stop. But I was angry. I was angry about being in a faith that led me to have those feelings in the first place. Now, around this time, we, you know, kind of when I was late elementary school, I think it was, we sort of had stopped going to church. I know I fought my parents on it a lot, and so did my sister, and we just really weren't fans of going to church, and I think my mom just got tired of the fight, so we stopped going. And then, yeah, so that was junior high school. The night terrors kind of abated, but I was not very happy with church in itself. In high school, I also went to a Catholic high school. And at this time, I sort of decided that I was an atheist. I'm like, you know what? I just don't believe in God. And if I don't believe in God, then I can't believe in the devil. Like, none of it. I just don't believe it. That's what I told myself. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but that's what I told myself at the time I decided I was going to be an atheist. Now, going to a Catholic school, we did have masses, Catholic mass at large events or on like Catholic holidays. Like I know for my graduation, before they handed out all of the like graduate certificates and stuff, we had mass, right? And when it was like, you know, Shrove Tuesday, Easter mass, all that kind of stuff we did at school. And I remember watching it and thinking, oh, this is so cult-like. As they walk in with the long pole, the kid, I don't remember if he was in front of or behind the priest, and he had this long pole with a cross on the top, and somebody else is carrying the book up high, and, you know, all of the conditioned responses, you know, peace be with you and also with you. You know, the taking of the bread and the wine, and it struck me as very, like, cult-like. You know, I was looking for reasons to dissociate myself from Catholicism. And so I just really, you know, pieced out in high school. I was like, nope, definitely not my thing. And 6 months after I graduated high school, so right after I turned 18, I moved out on my own and kind of was free at this point to sort of make up my own mind about what did I really believe in and what didn't I. And without having any sort of external pressures. I didn't have my parents, I didn't have my school telling me what to believe, I didn't have like a church I was part of that's telling me what to believe, and I was really free to sort of come up with my own ideas. And at this point, I realized that there's something. There has to be something in life. We're not just like, you know, there's got to be some higher power, some universal consciousness, I don't know what, but I decided there was definitely something. And when I was 19, I was in a local goth store and there was this book. Now, I had heard of witchcraft at this point, and I was sort of attracted to it, just due to the fact, because this is like in the late 90s now, so there was definitely a big surgence of witchcraft in popular culture in the 90s, and this is closer, like this is about 97. So I'd heard of witchcraft, and I was interested in it, especially because it's sort of, really, witchcraft is the antithesis of Christianity. Like historically, you know, the Christians held all the witch trials and, you know, like it's the antithesis of everything that Christianity is. So I was very attracted to it in a rebellious sort of way. And I found this book. It was Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham. And I was very interested in it. So I bought the book and I read it, and I really connected with this idea of the goddess. At this point, I had really rejected any ideas of a masculine deity. I really felt like with all of those night terrors, you know, I never felt like God would step in and save me from the devil unless I performed properly and did my nightly ritual of, you know, saying my prayers 3 times through perfectly. And then I would have performed enough to be worthy of God's saving from the devil for that night. Do you know what I mean? And I felt very like, that's not right. That's not right. I shouldn't have to prove myself to be worthy in order to be loved and protected by God. So I had really rejected the masculine God at this point. So right? This book is talking about the goddess, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Talking about, it's very nature-based, which just clicked with me. I've always been a very, like, nature outdoorsy person. But I was repulsed by anything that had to do with doctrine or ritual. You know, like you lay your altar out this way, and you must have these certain tools, and they must be this certain way on your altar. And I was that. Again, it turned me off because it felt too much like somebody telling me what I needed to believe. And I had grown up with people in school and in church and at home telling me what I had to believe. And it had led me down this terrible path. And I'm like, nope, I can't deal with that. So at this point I'm 19, and I was really like, that was when I realized I'm a witch. And I sort of said, you know what? I'm not Wiccan. I'm eclectic. I'm gonna take what works for me. I'm gonna do my own thing, and I'm gonna put my tools where I want to put my tools. I'm gonna use the tools that I want to use, and I'm gonna do this my way. And that was 24 years ago. That was sort of how I came to witchcraft. Now, since that time, I've definitely grown. I've processed a lot of that trauma. Now, I love doctrine. I love knowing this needs to go here and that needs to go there, and that's why it needs to go there, and that's what that's representing, and I love all of that. I've definitely rebuilt my relationship with the God. I actually very much look forward to working with the God. You know what I mean? I find he's very, the way I see it is like the goddess is the weaver of fate. She sort of lays the path, and it's the God who's the active participant who takes us along that path. And I love taking his hand and venturing further down my path. Now, I have to say, I am not anti-Christianity or anti-Catholic anything in and of itself. I don't think the issue with religion per se is in the religion itself. It has to do with people. People are fallible, and it's about relying on other people's interpretations. That's where I take issue. Having a priest stand between me and my deity, to me, is an issue. I want to interact with my deity one-on-one myself. I don't want to have somebody else between who is my gateway to. I don't think that's necessary. And I think that because people are fallible, it definitely leads to abuse, and it just leads to issues. Even when you look at the whole, how the Bible's been interpreted over there, it's like, thou shalt not suffer a witch, but that's not originally what it said. That was, again, and I don't have my notes or anything here, it's just an off comment, but, right, the original Bible never said thou shalt not suffer a witch. It had said something like thou shalt not suffer a heretic, and at some point it was reinterpreted to mean thou shalt not suffer a witch. But again, that's somebody's interpretation, and here we are depending on somebody's interpretation. And entertainingly, I found out when I was in elementary school, when I was very young, I did actually really like our priest in the big church. He was a very, very gregarious, very outgoing guy. He was really good with kids. And he would come to our school. He would visit at our school, and we would see him at like church and stuff like that. So we would interact a lot with him, and he was a really cool guy. Well, I remember being very upset. He was transferred away, and we got this new priest who was an alright guy. But, I always missed Father Albert. Well, it turns out the reason that I have found this out in later years, the reason he was transferred out of our church was because he was sleeping with married women in the congregation and had questionable relationships with teenage girls in the congregation. Again, there's just another, another nail in the coffin there. Again, people are fallible, and why put them in those positions? When in witchcraft, I can interpret for myself. I have no middleman. It's just me and my deity and my practice, and I can do that all on my own. Or I can find a group that thinks like I do, but I still am allowed to question, and there's still some lateral movement for how do I want to interpret that? Which deity do I want to work with? Maybe there's like a group overall, these are the ones we're going to work with, but that's not to say I can't work with other deity. So I really appreciate the hands-on control I have in my own witchcraft practice. So that's sort of a little bit about how I got from point A to point B, and my thoughts on, religion and witchcraft and all that good stuff. Do you have a story to share? I would love to hear it. Positive, negative, whatever, right? We all have our own experiences. I'd love to hear sort of where you come from, and how what spiritual path did you travel to reach witchcraft, and how did that all play together? So Luna and I are going to say see you later for now. We'll catch you in the next video, and thank you so much for watching. It's most appreciated. See you guys.